Hello and welcome to another booktube video from me, Lauren, from Lauren and the Books. And happy day after St. Patrick's Day. I've got my green jumper on because it's the day after St. Patrick's Day. I hope if you're nursing a heavy head after St. Patrick's Day last night, I hope you're feeling okay. Now, I am going to use this video as an opportunity to show off 10 of the books that I've got on my shelves that are by Irish authors. Ireland is owns a part of my heart. I've been there a few times, and every time I've been, I've had such a wonderful time. I lived with an Irish girl in my early 20s. God, remember those days. And she lived in Longford in Central Ireland, and I would often go and visit her for New Year and things like that, and that was lovely. So I bonded with Ireland in my early 20s, and then mine and David's first holiday together alone, we'd been on other holidays with other people, was a driving holiday around Ireland. We were over there to go to a friend's wedding in Donegal, and we started in Longford and we went to Donegal and we went to Northern Ireland and we went to Sligo. And yeah, I just think it's a beautiful place, and I really love it. So I thought I would use this opportunity, as it being St. Patrick's weekend, not St. Patrick's Day because that was yesterday, to show 10 Irish authors I have on my shelf. So some of these, so there's a mixture of like books that are coming out, books that are out at the moment, and some old Irish authors and some newer Irish authors, and just things that I'm excited about generally. So yeah, come aboard. There's also an Irish readathon going on at the moment in the month of March, which is super fun, and one of these books by this Irish author, by one of the Irish authors, I'll be reading not next, but the time after, and I'm very much looking forward to it. So I will start with a book that I've been sent in the post recently, and this is actually a free sampler of a book that's coming out in November. This is by Cecelia Ahern, and this is We Are Women, Here Are Raw. This is a free sampler because this will, when it comes out in November 2018, be 30 stories about women that will make you raw. And it says here, original, fierce, brave and inspiring. I'm really excited about this and looking forward to this, and aware that I said yesterday in my video about genres that I hate, that I hate women's contemporary fiction, and I know that Cecelia Ahern is a women's contemporary fiction writer, but yeah, I'm looking forward to this. So the first story in the sample is The Woman Who Slowly Disappeared. There's other stuff, The Woman Who Was Fed by a Duck, The Woman Who Was Swallowed Up by the Floor and Who Met Lots of Other Women Down There Too. And I just feel like this is a really great idea for a book, 30 stories about women, and I'm looking forward to it coming out, and I will definitely be reading the sampler before it comes out. It's in my pile of books that I'm going to be reading in the bath. So yeah, that I will get around to that at some point. The next one is an author. I haven't read this particular book, but I have read 2 other books by him, and this is Colm Tobin. This is The South. I have read Brooklyn, and I have read, oh my god, I want to say, oh goodness me, I can't remember, and it's a new one, so it won't definitely be in here. I want to say like Olive someone, or Olive, is there a book with Olive something? I really loved Brooklyn. I didn't love the second one, whose title I can't remember so much, but I feel like he writes really good in-depth characters with not much going on, so they're sort of like the books that I do very much enjoy, which are storylines where there's not like a big turnaround, a big massive event that happens, oh my goodness me, but it's like real slow burn. It says here, Catherine Proctor has dared to leave her family in Ireland and reach out for a new life. Determined to become an artist, she flees to Spain, where she meets Miguel, a passionate man who has fought for his own freedoms. They retreat to the quiet intensity of the mountains and begin to build a life together, but as Miguel's past catches up with him, Catherine too is forced to re-examine her relationships with her lover, her painting, and the homeland she only thought she knew. So yeah, very excited. I quite like that front cover as well. These are the Picador classics. I've got the Bridget Jones's Diary one in these. I really like these with like the white spines and the funky front cover. The next 2 are by the same author, and I've read one of her books that I also own, but I've actually lent it. I'm literally like, it's doing the rounds with my friends at the moment. My friend Kate read it and gave it back to me on Christmas Eve, and my other friend Amy was there, and I said, oh no, Amy, you read this now. So Amy's got it, and then when I get it back from Amy, I'll be lending it out to everyone. And that author is Sarah Crossin. The book that I'm talking about that I've adored and loved so much is One by Sarah Crossin, which is a book written in prose about a set of conjoined twins, which is wonderful. These are 2 of hers. This one's actually out from the library, Moonrise, and I've also got We Come Apart, which is written by Sarah Crossin and Brian Conahan, and they're all written in like she writes in prose, which I just find a really interesting way to write, and something I was terrified of when I was at school, and like I just wouldn't have been into it at all. But I feel like if someone had handed me one when I was at school, I would have loved that, and I would have gone on to read loads more about it. And they're really fast reads because they're just like the page is just taken up with, like, the whole page isn't used and things. But the way she managed to get so much feeling and so much sadness and also happiness over the page in such a short book alone, without the fact that none of those pages were written on like a full novel, was just amazing. So Moonrise is about Joe, who hasn't seen his brother for 10 years, and because Ed is his brother is on death row. So yeah, I feel that is a very, very interesting topic. And then this one, which is a proof, I bought this when I went into oh god, this was out last year as well. I bought this when I went to Any Amount of Books in London. It doesn't actually say what it's about. I think it's written from, I think it's done from two perspectives. One is written by Brian Conahan and the other one's written by Sarah Crossin. And is it about them falling in love or anything? It doesn't really say. On the back it says here, I know he's watching Niku, the boy who fell in the pond and didn't moan about it. But what does he see when he looks at me? What does anyone ever see? So yeah, that's very exciting. This is a book that I know Jess Kidd, this book is about, by Jess Kidd. She's got another book out at the moment. This is called Himself, and this is about a chap, Mahoney, returning to Moulderig, a speck of a place on Ireland's west coast. He brings only a photograph of his long-lost mother and a determination to do battle with the lies of his past. No one, living or dead, will tell Mahoney what happened to the teenage mother who abandoned him as a baby, despite his certainty that more than one of the villagers knows the sinister truth. So yeah, that feels, I like it. That reminds me a bit of Holding by Graham Norton. I listened to that on audiobook. It was really, really good. It was narrated by Graham Norton himself, which was really, really good. And they had like a whole host of characters and looking back on something that had happened in this really small place in Ireland. So yeah, excited about that. The next one is one that I'm going to be reading really, really shortly, and I'm really, really excited about it. That is Almost Love by Louise ONeill. Now, Louise ONeill has written two books that I've really enjoyed, Only Ever Yours and Asking For It. She writes about really hard-hitting social like commentary almost. So Only Ever Yours is sort of like a YA, I would describe it as a YA Handmaid's Tale. It's about a world where, I'm going to hold this down because it's quite heavy. It's about a world where girls, they've stopped, people stopped giving birth to girls, and girls are made in labs, and they are all in this school to sort of compete for prettiness, and the ultimate prize is that you get to be paired up with one of the boys from a neighbouring school who then takes you as their sort of like I guess, what's those wives called? Stepford wives. Yeah, and it was really like real and hard, and there's a lot in there about social media and things like that, and just, yeah. And then the next one, Asking For It, was about a young girl who, after a night out on the drink and dressed in not very much, ends up getting gang raped by boys in her community, and then the sort of fallout from that, whether or not she was asking for it because of what she was wearing and because she's what she's like with boys normally and things like that. And I just find her writing really intriguing and yeah, just like really hard hitting but also completely readable. So Almost Love is about a woman who has this is her first adult novel, the other two were YA. This is about a woman who has a relationship with a man 20 years older than her, and it's quite a problematic relationship. I believe there's some abuse in there, and she's sort of like just gripping and holding on to it because it's the love she thinks she deserves. It's almost love. It's enough for her. So yeah, I'm really looking forward to reading this, and this is what I'm going to be reading. Not net, like I'm just about to read Elmet, but for the women's long list prize, the women's prize long list, blah, and then I'm going to pick this up afterwards, so I'm very much looking forward to this. The next one is a proof that I picked up at Simon's house. It looks absolutely massive, and it came out last February, and it's The Heart's Invisible Furies by John Boyne. Look at the bloody size of it, it's humongous. But I remember when I included this in the haul, someone commented down below and said, oh, it's not actually that big. It doesn't take that long to do it. So this is about Cyril Avery is not a real Avery, or at least that's what his adoptive parents tell him, and he never will be. But if he isn't a real Avery, then who is he? Born out of wedlock to a teenage girl cast out from her rural Irish community and adopted by a well-to-do, if eccentric Dublin couple, but via the intervention of a hunchback redemptorist nun, Cyril is adrift in the world, anchored only tenuously by his heartfelt friendship with the infinitely more glamorous and dangerous Julian Woodbead. So yeah, that yeah, I've heard very good things about that. The next one is one that's just out in paperback at the moment, so it's really like in my face, and I keep thinking about reading it, and I think it's going to go on my TBR for April, and that is Conversations with Friends by Sally Rooney. This is about a set of 4 friends, Frances, Bobby, Nick and Melissa, and they are friends who ask each other endless questions, and you get to see into their relationships, into their friendships, and their discussions on sex, friendship, art, literature, politics, gender and one another, and it's told from the perspective, I think it's told from the perspective of all of them, but Frances, who's 20, is at the heart of it, and yeah, this I'd heard a few rumours that this was going to be longlisted for the Women's Prize, and then it didn't end up, and I sort of had it on my shelf thinking, oh well, I'll hang on to that because it's probably going to be longlisted for the Women's Prize, and then it didn't end up being longlisted, but I think I'm going to read this in April, so yeah, I'm looking forward to reading that. And then the last 2 are 2 cookbooks, but I couldn't not mention them because I use them so often and I'm so fond of them, and if you've watched my channel before, you'll definitely have heard me talk about these guys, and that is the Happy Pear. So Stephen and David Flynn are twins who live in I want to say Waterford, I can't think what it's called, whereabouts they are, Greystones, and they own a vegan cafe called the Happy Pear, and they've got 2 books. Mine are covered in post-it notes because there's so many things in here I like to make. The first book of theirs was called The Happy Pear, and that's like this little cute one thing, and it's got some really good like curries, and there's a lot of, although it's vegetarian and vegan, there's a lot of like majority vegan stuff, or definitely stuff that you can make into vegan. And then their most recent one, which came out, The World of the Happy Pear, which has got further, oh god, look at this Japanese food bowl. I mean, doesn't that look colourful and delicious? They've also got a YouTube channel. They're incredibly enthusiastic and easy to follow chefs. I love them, and I feel like whenever there's a cookery book video or I'm talking about vegan food and things like this, these are the people I mention, but I couldn't not include them in my Irish authors book haul because I do really use these books. They've got another one out called, I think it's like Eating Through the Seasons or something. It's out in May. I've got a pre-order on it, so when it gets there I'll definitely have to show you guys. But those are 10 of the books from my shelves written by Irish authors. Would love to hear who your favourite Irish authors are, if you've read any of these books, if you enjoyed them. And happy St Patrick's Day to you all, if you had a lovely St Patrick's Day. David and I, we're not doing anything. I've merely just got me a green jumper on. I'm going for a takeaway around my cousin's tonight. And I will see you all again soon for another booktube video.